So recently I found myself adding some new updates to the Mastering Snowflake program. Now this is something I do on a regular basis because Snowflake's changing all of the time with new features every month. So I'm really committed to keeping my course content up to date so my members get full value from that and get the latest information based upon Snowflake's new features and releases. Now in this particular update I was adding projection and aggregation policies. If you haven't came across them before, these are really handy to use, really easy to implement, and specifically really help you to restrict unauthorized access to specific data at a granular level for data sharing workloads. It can be used in other scenarios, other use cases, but I would suggest that for data sharing with third parties or partners external to your organization, these are really going to help you. So if you're unfamiliar with them, go and check them out. However, this video is not necessarily about projection or aggregation policies. It's more focused on a new function that I found. I don't know how long it's been out there, but it makes it really easy to test these functions when typically you're applying a context function such as current user, current role, current account, and things like that. And so previously when you needed to test things like aggregation or projection policies, but also masking policies or row access policies, you needed to assign a role to your own user, and then you needed to execute those queries under that particular context. And then you needed to remember to move that role off your user is a bit of a housekeeping exercise afterwards. This way though of doing it with the new policy underscore context function allows you to simulate what a user would see when running under that context. And so that could be your current user or current role. You would define that in your query, as we'll see in a second, and it will return that result set or not, as the case may be, so you can effectively test the rules and policies that you're putting in place within your Snowflake environment really easily. And obviously in many cases, you're applying these policies because you want to restrict access to potentially sensitive information. So you really need to make sure it works. So without further ado, let's head on over to Snowflake and I'll give you a quick demo of how this works. Okay, so here we are in Snowflake and we've got a table called customer. Here's some of the data in our customer table that we've got available. Now I've created this aggregation policy here. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail. If you are interested, you can check it out on the Snowflake documentation, or better still, you can take a look at my Mastering Snowflake program and you'll get this kind of information and much more advanced level of detail, plus a whole host of other features. So by all means, check that out on my website or using the links in the video description below. However, I've created this aggregation policy, and essentially what I've done here is when the current role is sysadmin, then I'm not applying any aggregation constraints, so no policies that are going to restrict the aggregation of data and the result sets I can see. Otherwise though, for any other roles outside of the sysadmin, I'm going to apply this aggregation constraint, and I'm going to apply a minimum group size here. Don't worry too much about this, but basically that number specifies the level of granularity I can see in the table if I'm not running this query under a sysadmin role. So I've applied this already to the table. If I look at the current role I'm running under now, it is a sysadmin role. So if I select from customer, this will take a while to run. It's got a few thousand records in here. I can see the data in there. But what if I want to simulate this with another role, the custom role I've created, or just any other role outside of sysadmin to make sure it works? Well, this is where the execute using policy underscore context comes in. I'm using the current role, so context function, I'm setting it to public. And then after that, I can apply my query. So again, using the same query I'm using above, but this time the current role is public. So when I execute that, I get the aggregation policy violation. And that's exactly what I would see if I ran this query under this role. Now, obviously in this case, I could come up here and click public and execute that role. Where it's really handy is if you've got a custom role that you've created in your Snowflake environment that your user's not a member of, you can execute this and check what it's like as long as you've got privileges to do that. Makes it really easy and simple to test that. So use policy context, use it for row-based access policies, column level masking, aggregation, and projection policies. It'll make your life easier for testing.